what would be considered a successful season for Robert Saleh right now? I mean, last year he was like in the running for coordinator of the year. He was getting head coaching offers. Now it's like, is his defense going to even rank top 10? And if it doesn't, is that a reflection on him? Is the bar been lowered? How are we grading him this year?
Okay, so I don't think you can grade him on the ranking of his defense, because the easy answer for any defensive coordinator when you lose a pass rusher or a player like Nick Bosa is, let's blitz more. But when you blitz more, you have to be able to play man coverage, which is something the 49ers are incapable of doing.
Right. Unless they're playing the Jets or the Giants.
Right.
They could do it this week, but yes.
Right. Like you can't guard Robert Woods with Emmanuel Mosley one-on-one when you play the Rams. You
could give up 200 yards, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, right. And you can try it against Seattle, but if DK Metcalf is beating Stephon Gilmore deep, what do you think he's going to do to Emmanuel Mosley? Or Raquel? Or
even Mosley held his own against him last year, but DK's better now.
Yeah, and they don't even mess around with him anymore. They just say, you run, you're bigger and faster than everybody. Just run, and Russell will throw it to you.
Yeah, we'll give you a couple shots. Just keep going.
Yeah. And he's a freak. He's a freak. Yes. I don't even know what it would be like tackling him. He looks like he's 10 pounds heavier.
Yeah, he's like the wide receiver version of Vernon Davis.
Yeah. That's actually a great comparison.
Thanks.
But I think
but let's get back to Saleh though. I mean, what if you were interested in him last year as a potential head coaching candidate, what can he do this year to keep your interest, given that you know his defense isn't going to rank as highly? What can he show you?
I just think he needs to show improvements in the areas that he struggled even with those guys there. And my big thing is just be a better red zone defense. You're going to have to be a bend but do not break defense with the way your defense is. So be that, but be a much better red zone defense. Yes. And my number 2 would be just get better at disguising. They were a little better at disguising last year because they started playing both Ward and Tart as split safeties. So then they would rotate to either cover 3 or they would both go back and play cover 4. And that was a nice wrinkle, but I think there has to be just a little bit more. And he's going to and if he wants his defense to be top 10 to 12 to 15, because he has enough players where I say that's a fair place for him to be. Yeah. He's going to have to do a little bit more, and I'm hoping he does it, but we'll see.
Well, let's talk about the red zone. I mean, I think you're right on there. They even last year with like a historically great defense, they weren't particularly good in the red zone. And I have some theories as to why that is, and I'll share them with you, but I'd be interested to hear what you think and what you would do to improve that particular area of the defense.
Well, I think I have one basic theory, and it's that you have to play man coverage.
Thank you. If you're playing zone at the 6-yard line, you're just letting people run into the end zone. I'm sorry. Right. At a certain point, you got to take away the quick slants and all that stuff. I'm with you, man.
Right. And I think that in a tight enough space, because nobody still guards the back shoulder fade better than Richard Sherman.
Yes.
I think in a tight enough space with Quan Alexander is pretty good in man on running backs out of the backfield.
Tart's pretty good.
Tart's really good in man. Jimmy Ward is bad at locating the ball, but he's really good at staying sticky in coverage.
Yes. And so if he doesn't have to worry about the deep ball.
Right. And
if he doesn't have to cover Brandon Marshall, that's the only thing.
He's a safety. Yeah. The ball needs to be in front of him. He can't track it over, and that's just unfair to ask of him.
Right.
And so, that would be my number one thing. And they did do it more, and they did get just destroyed in man coverage. But I think in the red zone, like in the Super Bowl, that's a sore subject to bring up. But, I think the number one thing would just be play more man coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, and be confident that your guys can execute it. I mean, they're not going to be perfect, but playing prevent at the 7-yard line just isn't going to get it done.
And my number 2 thing is that if you're a guy that wanted to hire Robert Saleh last year, anything he does this year to me should have nothing to do with why you're hiring him as a head coaching guy. Because if I'm someone that was interviewing Robert Saleh, I'm not hiring him because he can be Vic Fangio,
right, or Bill Belichick, or some scheme genius,
right? I'm hiring him because he's got great charisma. He's a great people's person.
Players respond to him
well. Yeah. He relates with players. He's a great communicator. He's confident.
Yeah,
he's
like a young Mike Tomlin in that role.
Right. John
Yes.
Harbaugh. He's a
Yes.
CEO.
Yes. Or Pete Carroll. Yeah.
Right. He's of that mold. So I would think that it would be extremely short-sighted and unfair to evaluate him based on your defense's rankings, because that's not why you should hire him as a coach.
Right. So actually, what he has an opportunity to show growth, and in a sense, he needs to grow because his job just got exponentially harder. Nick Bosa was almost like a crutch. It's like I have Nick Bosa, D Ford, DeForest Buckner, and Armstead. How creative should I get on this third down, or should I just let him do it? Yeah.
And to me, the bigger test will not be right now, but when he starts playing the better offensive coordinators on the schedule. So because Sean Payton worked him last year. Andy Reid, he had Andy Reid for a little bit. Andy Reid ended up working him. Greg Roman, I mean, that was a swamp game. It's just whatever. I'm not going to.
True. Yeah, swamp game. Yeah.
But
and then McVay the last week.
Right.
Yeah.
And even the first drive, McVay couldn't throw the ball forward pass with his quarterback because he can't move out of pressure, and they were getting pressure every time. And McVay still was able to manufacture a game plan that would work for a certain amount of time until his team's limitations let him down.
True.
And so my big question would be, and it seems Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers have figured something different out there. So my biggest question would be, can you come up with stuff that really, really holds the best offensive coordinators in the NFL for a little bit, which is
you couldn't do it last year, right?
Right. It's near impossible. It's even Belichick gets beat by these guys.
Yes. And, I'm sure Saleh was watching the Sunday Night Football game last night being like, geez, even Bill Belichick can't keep Russell Wilson in the pocket. And everyone's skewering me in the Bay Area when I'm watching right here. The smartest defensive coach in the league is, there goes Russell Wilson again. So that's fair. What I would say is he needs to have a plan for linebackers, man. But what's the plan? Tell Quan Alexander to stop overrunning them?
That's true. That is true. My take with that, though, is that Bill just lost too many people this year. Their defense will be sound because it's coached by Bill Belichick.
They all opted out. The whole team.
Right. And that's what happens when you have a team of guys who are all proven. They've all been paid. They've all won a Super Bowl. They don't need football the same way these other guys do.
Right.
And
bring it back to the Niners real quick. I feel like the Niners the last few years were a team full of guys who needed football and were hungry to prove themselves, from the last guy on the roster to the top guy on the roster to the coaching staff. This year is the year it's different. They all got paid except for Robert Saleh and a few guys. So it's curious to see if the Niners are really an organization that's driven for perfection, or if that will slide in the next couple of years, like it did to me in Philly. And it does naturally to a lot of teams that come close or actually get there and win the whole thing. The Philly won, got paid, and now, does Doug Peterson seem like ahead of the game? No. I'm not saying Kyle Shanahan's going to fall off magically, but I'm just curious.
Right. Before all the faithful jump on you saying that.
Wait a second.
Grant's saying that the Niners, all he's saying here is that it's going to be something that you would like to observe because it's human nature to get a little bit more relaxed and become a bit lazier once you've reached some sort of success. And it'll be
once you're set for life. What are you doing it for? What's driving you now?
Right. And it's just going to be something to observe over the next few years. He's not giving an opinion saying that this is what's going to happen. He's just saying this is something you would like to look at.
You're hella funny, man. You're like my dad right now. I've went a little too far, and you're like, hey, guys, I know. Here's what he's trying to say. Thank you, Vish. I appreciate it. I went too far.
Yeah, well, I didn't want the faithful to just jump on you out here.
If my dad was on right now, he would have done the same thing.